So if I spoil anything, I apologize, but I thought I would rather be safe than sorry. The first discussion was, did you struggle at all with the layout of the play and the multiple conversations going on? Did you find it easier to understand while watching the video of the performance? Did you feel it was more realistic or not? So I understood the plot and the premise of the act by just reading it, but there's motifs and metaphors and subtleties that I picked up on better when watching the performance. Plays aren't usually written out with their entire physicality in mind. A lot of aspects are left up to the actor and the director discretion. I think if it was intended to be fully understood just by the script alone, it just would have been a book. So that being said, there's a couple of things that I gathered from watching the play that I might have missed in my original read-through of the script. When the actresses are talking, they're overlapping each other more than the script can convey, and it feels like chaos when you're listening to it instead of just reading it. And their tone kind of teeter-totters between being childlike and being innocent and being the young adults that they're currently growing to be. And that's made evident by their line delivery, like their pauses and being unsure of what to say, or getting too passionate at times, or discussing situations at inappropriate times. The script doesn't do a full job at conveying that. Listening to it really does. As well as the way that the actors physically hold themselves, whether they're awkward or they're confident, can cue the audience into underlying messages and motifs better than just the straight script, which I think is important because it's a coming-of-age story, so you need to communicate their youth no matter what the character's personality is. I think a good example was number 2 ripping apart the orange. She's not doing it in like a joking way, but in a genuinely starving way. The script just says that she hesitates putting the orange in her mouth, then, quote, devours the entire bag of orange slices. She doesn't just, like, eat them, though. She consumes them rather fervently when the actor is portraying her on stage. I'm assuming that she either has some kind of disordered eating or because her weight was mentioned earlier about her being skinny, or she could have some kind of food insecurity. She mentioned peanut butter and cheese, which are not like diet foods to me. They're actually notably calorically dense. But I think it's also a nod to wanting closeness, because they mention that the oranges are a shared experience from their childhood. 2 kind of comes off as innocent to the group, like she uses pads instead of tampons, she comes from a religious family, she doesn't have a phone like the rest of the girls do, so I imagine that she could feel really disconnected. They all unite over this orange thing besides 46, who's the new girl, and she doesn't have that same understanding, and they're kind of like segments in an orange in that way. And 2's actresses' choices helped me understand that metaphor. I think it's a layered metaphor in a way that the original script, I don't think, fully conveys just by the way that she eats her orange. Another one was when they're often like sitting in a circle. They're unified in some regard. There's a couple girls that maybe sit on the outside, and notably those are the girls who have gone through hardship or are seen as different. The ones within the circle are in kind of a bubble. So like 46 is often on the outside. They're literally in a bubble, kind of as you are in your childhood years. And I think it's interesting that they note that there's a hole in the air dome, a hole in their bubble as they're beginning to be exposed to the cruelties in the world. Like they talk about, like, as they're beginning to discover like injustices. And their blocking helps convey that. They're also known as wolves. They're pack animals, and they're known to have like a lone wolf or two. So the blocking helped me, I think, get a better feel for this group of girls. I also like that on stage you have a chance to miss some of the conversations going on, kind of like in real life. It gives a really naturalistic feel and an atmosphere, as opposed to just reading it where you are presumably reading every single line. When you're watching it, there's opportunities to miss subtle changes, like when 46 felt mortified and slowly started getting on the verge of tears. I could imagine if I did not know that was, if I had not read the script prior, if I was watching the show blind for the first time, I could imagine missing that and looking over and going like, oh, like what happened? Why is she crying? Yeah, those are just some things that I noticed. So in conclusion, I do feel like it was more realistic, and I did find it easier to understand while watching the video.